We're here at the Eastern Shore Lab for Virginia Institute of Marine Science. We had to do an annual census for the scallop population that we've been trying to restore to the coastal bays of Virginia. So it is all done by hand. We have meter square quadrats, which is a fancy word for pieces of PVC that are glued together in meter squares. And we don our mask and snorkel gear. We have a minimum of 5 people that radiate out from the boat and run a transect. They just flip that meter square over on the bottom, take a breath, go underwater, and by hand are looking for any scallops within that meter square, PVC meter square space. And if we find any, we bring them back to the boat, we measure them, we'll collect them for spawning and also for DNA samples so that we can track the genetics. It involves both Gloucester Point scientists, the Seagrass team over there, as well as ESL, and we get help from the Nature Conservancy as well. They also will run a boat. So in the course of 3 days, we will cover a great deal of bottom to get an accurate estimate of how many bay scallops are out there.
If you go way back about 100 years, the Virginia coastal bays were totally vegetated. Lots of eelgrass everywhere. And there was also a thriving scallop population that existed in those bays and a small scallop harvest. And then right around 1930, people started seeing signs of a disease that was affecting the eelgrass. And over the course of 2 years, all of the eelgrass in the Virginia coastal lagoons and about 90 to 99% of the eelgrass throughout the Atlantic basin disappeared. And all of this was caused by this pathogen called seagrass wasting disease. In relation to the scallop restoration, the big thing that seagrass does is it provides habitat. So this is essential habitat for juvenile scallops to attach to. It's also essential nursery habitat for a long list of other species, some of which are really commercially important. So between 2000 and 2020, we planted about 550 acres of eelgrass in the lower Virginia coastal bays. And that planting effort, which is all based on broadcasting seeds that we collected in the Chesapeake Bay, has resulted in over 9,000 acres of eelgrass in these bays today. And that makes it the largest successful seagrass restoration on the planet.
And when that total hit 6,000, Mark Luckenbach, the previous director here, brought scallops up from North Carolina to start trying to restore the scallop population to those seagrass beds. They bred and raised them here for a couple of years, and the first releases I think were 2012. And the Scallop Survey, the annual survey, started a year after in 2013.
One of the hurdles of the bay scallop restoration is that the bay scallops are a short-lived species and only live to be 2 years old. So if you have a bad season or a harsh winter and the population numbers decrease, each generation is really carrying on the next.
As the aquaculture for the bay scallops became more and more prominent project here at ESL, we then brought in individuals from different locations up and down the East and Gulf coasts. And we were hoping with that, that being able to include these new genetics in our overall restoration stock, that we would hopefully increase the genetics in the wild stock. And hopefully, any advantageous traits that may have come from a combination of any of these brood stocks will make a really robust scallop that will be able to survive in the grass beds and lead to, a booming population of these things again.
And kind of just bouncing off of that, the first couple years that we were doing the scallop survey, like 2013, 2014, 2015, the population numbers were very variable, kind of up and down. And around the same time that we introduced these new genetics, the population started continuously increasing over time. And so another part of the genetic work is trying to figure out, did the population just reach a threshold where the scallops started reproducing on their own in the wild, or was bringing in those additional genetics advantageous to the wild population?
We are at a point where we are very, very close to a population density that the state of Florida uses to establish harvestable levels. They consider a sustainable harvestable population to be 1 bay scallop per 10 meters square of bottom grass. We were really, really close to that last year.
To see the numbers of our wild population continuing to climb over the past few years is just incredible, and I'm really grateful to be, a really small part of that effort.